Okay, what I'm doing is I'm putting these bus bars on just a 2x4 for a base. This is a extremely temporary setup to fix Humsienk's, how do you say it, just a failure. They're still in the Stone Ages. They have a nice battery, but have all the software and all the posts to set it up, but their suggestion is to use a bus bar because their cables only connect to the terminal. You can't connect battery to battery with Humsienk. They sell these plug-ins separately. They send a nice flexible cable, 4-aught cable. You know, it's nice long cable, good length. It's just good enough to reach everything. But every one of them has these metal lugs on them, like you go back to a inverter, and you can only hook one to an inverter, so you're stuck. You got to go back in time, go back to Stone Ages, and use bus bars. That's that's pretty poor on Humsienk's behalf there. To be fair, I did try to address this with them ahead of time, and that was the result that I got from them. Now, I did hear that they are going to offer cables now that they realize they're supposed to have cables to go from battery to battery, but at this time they don't have them. So people like me who have multiple batteries are just SOA. Yeah, it is what it is. That's not a good sign for working with Humsienk. But okay, more in a few minutes, and these are the batteries that I'm having the issue with right now. It's a Humsienk, and it's not the battery itself; it's the company just either not knowing or not preparing the proper cabling to go with the battery that they're selling. These batteries, now let me point out, these batteries here have 2 positive posts, 2 negative posts. They are set up for in and out communications from battery to battery to battery to battery, and the software to have 1 master battery. But the company itself has failed in providing the proper cabling to go with it. You can look at some other companies, and I'm not going to name the name right now that I'm talking to, that they provide both sets of cables. They provide that set of cables that go to the inverter. They also provide no wasp were hurt in this video. It was just optical illusion. They provide both cables. They provide a battery to battery cable, which most of them do, especially when you're getting multiple batteries. That really doesn't make sense. But and they also provide the battery to the inverter terminal, which is the cable that came with these batteries. If you've just bought 1 battery, that would be fine. But if you've got 4 batteries and you have the ability, the software on the Humsienk to go from battery to battery, and the battery's set up for it. This battery would be going to your master. This battery would go to your next battery, and the same thing, vice versa. Once you get to the next battery, the second post would go to the next battery, and so on. So you put them in parallel, increasing the size of your battery. Same thing with the negatives and your in and out communications here. The battery is built and set up to do that. The company just simply failed by it's just poor planning by the company. Now I have heard that they are going to fix that. That doesn't do anything for people who have the batteries now, or people who have ordered the batteries. And one of the big issues is these terminals here. There's several different styles of them, the amphoids and the dog legs. I may be mispronouncing those words, so just bear with me there. But this particular style, there's a whole bunch of styles of these, and while you can find replacement ends, you can't find the exact end to know if it's going to work with this terminal unless you tear this battery apart and take these out. And I don't feel if you pick up a battery that you should have to tear that battery apart and replace the internal parts to that post so that you can have a terminal to go from battery to battery from the company that is selling them. That's kind of ridiculous, but that's just a failure on, I don't know if you call that management or organization. The battery itself is designed great. So far, no problems with the batteries, and we're going to get them fired up here today. Hopefully show you that in a little while. But as far as the cabling, that's a very small piece of the battery, and somebody just dropped the ball. They're still back in the Stone Ages. Their suggestion was to go to a bus bar, put each battery to a bus bar. There's no master battery now. Why are you buying the fancy battery with all the software and all the connections if you're going to use prehistoric bus bars to connect things? I gotta believe somebody over there knows that was wrong, and they should be offering the cables with the batteries. Other companies send them out with the batteries, but apparently Humsienk doesn't think that was important at the time, and even in the afterthought, they're going to do it in the future, they say, but right now people like me are just out of luck. So that is definitely a failure. Now, I will say they are communicating well. They're still great on the communication, but as far as after sales, after product support, and to me, this is a failure on the company's part that they didn't. They're selling a battery that goes battery to battery. They're sending out. I got 4 batteries here. I've got no cables that go from battery to battery. I only have cables that go from battery to inverter, and the only way to connect them to an inverter is to go to the bus bar and then to the inverter, because you have 4 cables. So I'm going to mark that as a failure in management, I guess is what you're going to call it. It will still function. I mean, it functioned 20 years ago when you hooked batteries up that way, so it should still function now. But we didn't have all the software to manage the batteries, to run a master battery, and you just you go to the trouble to build a battery that has all these extra connections that you can connect battery to battery in parallels. So that's just definitely okay. I got my supervisor out here. Yeah. Don't think much of the job, huh? Okay, we still have the bus-bar fiasco. They did actually send communication cable to go back to the inverter and one to every battery, but they did not send a battery to battery cable. So it's not like they didn't know about it. It's just a pure mistake by the manufacturer's company. Whoever's in charge of that just dropped the ball. That's prehistoric, going back to bus bars. Okay, let's talk bus bars today. If you have a battery company that has you using prehistoric bus bars, here's your video. Okay, these are 275 amp 48 volt bus bars, and the point that I want to make with these bus bars, I don't have anything any smaller than that. Those are the 5/16 studs I had to get for these specific batteries to be that small. But I want you to look at the width of the base plate down there, and that's basically where they're carrying their current from. Now look at the difference in this one. This is a 600 amp 48 volt, but the studs are 3/8, so you can see the difference. And many of those bus bars that you find cheap, Alibaba, AliExpress, Amazon, anywhere like that, pay attention to your bus bar, the flat plate in that bar. You can see the difference in that plate and this plate is obviously considerably different. Now this is a 600 amp, that's a 275 amp, and you're going to find a lot of these 150, 200 amps that the plate is paper thin underneath there. I question whether they hold the voltage or not, but just be careful that when you're buying bus bars, you are running current through there. You don't want this to be your weak point. You don't want your current to melt this out. You want to trip a breaker if you have a problem. You don't want problems at your bus bar. So y'all be careful with those bus bars, and have a good day.